Welcome back to IPL Face-Off. Jaws and Jat here.
Welcome
TSM
to
versus
Summer's
Orbit Game 2.
Raid.
Orbit taking Game 1. We are starting right off the bat. Jat, how are you feeling about this game?
Bam, so glad to be into Game 2. Orbit had a very good and impressive showing in Game 1, putting TSM immediately onto their heels. They have Ezreal again, which I think was one of the biggest factors, and they have the same solo lane setup that they did last time as well. So Team Solomid has to turn up the dial a little bit and come on to Orbit because they were
30
looking
seconds until
sleepy in the
minions
first game.
spawn.
Certainly TSM, great professional, so I expect them fully to come roaring back in this Game 2. Looks like Hai doing a little bit of scouting with Lee Sin, not finding Dyrus, who's setting up, and it looks like they're going to be doing that Wraith Red start with Shyvana. Shyvana in the jungle against Hai's Lee Sin, Dyrus being forced to back out. Orbit getting a little bit cheeky, placing a ward down, getting extra vision.
So both teams have placed wards down here very early. They have the Team Solomid ward in their Wraith side river, and Orbit's ward just mirroring that on the opposite side. So last game we saw wards at the Wraiths. This game we have wards in the river a little bit. And surprisingly, it's 1:45 into the game, and Odd1 has not started the jungle camp yet. So right from the get-go, he's putting himself 10 to 15 seconds behind Hai.
Certainly Hai just finishing up that Wraith camp. Odd1 just finishing up as well, especially giving him a little bit of help with those bananas. Great leash from Chaox. Looks like they're going to be going down into that bottom lane. Speaking of bottom lane, Chaox special on that Corki Soraka facing off against Nien and Lemon Nation on that Ezreal Sona. We saw in Game 1, Nien really scary on that Ezreal and able to make something happen with the mobility, and it looks like we have a 1v2 swap.
We do have a 1v2, and that's a good move. Dyrus already taking a lot of harass. The big thing about this is Dyrus started hitting the creeps very early on, so it's going to freeze there for a long time, and he is going to be in a lot of trouble, while Yuzuki is actually letting Corki and Soraka push, so he's going to at least be able to get experience, I think.
Now, Jat, we had talked about these 1v2 swaps. Azubu Blaze at the MLG Summer Arena really bringing it to the North American audience. Nubby Pooh Bear and Reginald.
And both junglers are sitting in mid here. They could try to start a quick little fight. Odd1's going to hop in right with his gold card, but then Hai as well. They're just Odd1 managed to stay in the brush there. They're actually trying to bait a counter gank. Not much doing because they saw him jump in there from the ward in the river.
That was a great play from Hai as well to scout that brush X special. Getting a little silence out. It looks like Lemon Nation's going to come down to help him out, so a 2v2, and Nien is going to 1v1 against Dyrus. How do you feel about that decision?
It's odd. I expected if they were wanting to do a 2v1, they would stick with the 2v1. Instead, they're just swapping out for a Vladimir Sona lane, which I do not see in their advantage. I think Ezreal can beat Shen, but also not by much. So the fact that they're switching this around, I think, is just giving Orbit a negative impact in the bottom lane.
Orbit could potentially not benefit from this X special. So much pain down on Soraka with that silence and those auto attacks. X special is such an aggressive support, especially with those auto attacks. It's great to see.
Even on Soraka, he's an incredibly aggressive support. He's one of the few people who gets a point in Star Call early on in the game. So even though he only has his heal and his infuse thus far, he's going to be getting that Star Call pretty soon, and he's going to want to harass a lot with it just because they're up against a weak lane now. Vladimir Sona is not a good two-man lane, and I'm still very confused why they have Ezreal solo top.
Ezreal actually taking a lot of damage from Dyrus, and Odd1 coming in to potentially try and convert something. Reginald is following him, and Nubby Pooh Bear is going to stay mid, so we could potentially see some action going out top lane, but it looks like they're just going to be backing off as Hai and Nubby Pooh Bear continue to pressure. It looks like Hai's going to be stealing the Wraith camp from the Odd1, so Orbit trying to get that early advantage. However, we are dead on even, 4 minutes in, 5,400 gold to both teams. Where do you think this first blood's going to be coming from?
I'm thinking that Orbit, at least right now, has a bit of an advantage. The Odd1 is getting a bit behind. He's been a little bit lackluster. The first blood is probably going to come somewhere in the bottom lane because Vladimir Sona wasn't that weak. Okay, they're actually swapping it around now. Ezreal going bottom with Sona, which makes a lot more sense. So if anything, with how much these junglers are paying attention to middle lane, that's where they want it to happen. I just don't know if that's going to actually be the case.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they're going to be doing, or a little bit more of a traditional play. We had said those 1v2 swaps are sort of the new meta, so to speak, but this is
Whoa.
a very familiar meta in the end. Getting a little bit of pain down. He does get seen, and he is down pretty low.
He shifted right next to Khaux there just to make sure he got the damage from the shift right onto him, and then just stood there and tanked him up. That is a lot of healing coming out through Sona. So early on in the game, actually, Sona does out-heal Soraka as long as the mana sustains it. The heal of Sona's on a very short cooldown, especially those 20 seconds, so with how much they're trading right now, they're just trading mana for healing. And
there could be some trouble top lane. Dyrus going with Odd One, but Yuzuki's just going to be out of range, giving Odd One a little bit of a love tap before he leaves. Bottom lane, Corki able to get a little bit of a minion kill advantage. He is 37 to Ezreal's 32. Not too much, and some action top lane. High diving in, getting Odd One down to half health, and he's just going to back out, but Orbit trying to press something early. Lee Sin is a really aggressive jungler.
I think a lot of what's happened here is Vladimir's already behind since he was stuck in that 2v2 lane with Sona, whereas Dyrus just had a straight up 1v1, so he's had his advantage on that lane. High coming over the wall, forcing the flash from Reginald. Reginald's going to be a lot more vulnerable now that he's burned that flash, and tons of attention being paid by Lee Sin to that middle lane.
It certainly is. Ryze actually burning his Ignite as well, so he's not going to have that as an option. Looking at this middle lane, Reginald, 41 minion kills. He actually built an early Heart of Gold, so he is really looking to build into that late game. Ryze, on the other hand, finishing his Tear the Gods, he's at 45 minion kills.
So to me, when you signal yourself going for a Heart of Gold that early on mid, it could just be for the health, but it's mostly saying, I'm going to play this lane extremely conservatively and just trade farm with you. You can see that Nubby Pooh Bear is at 47 minions, Reginald's at 43. I'm probably going to go like double or triple GP10 at this point, and he's just going to go farm city, try to get as much gold as possible. Should be interesting.
It certainly will be. Reginald, a little bit more conservative, looking top lane. Dyrus grabbing his recurve bow, so we could see a Wit's End going out against that Yuzuki Vladimir. Makes sense in terms of the item build. X Special grabbing a Ruby Crystal in addition to the Fairy Charm instead of finishing the Philosopher's Stone.
That's curious. It's just a matter of they're doing so many aggressive trades that the extra health is very beneficial to them. He's definitely wanting to get the Heart of Gold as his first gold per 10 item, and he's just going for it there with the Heart of Gold. He probably didn't have enough gold to finish off for the Philosopher's Stone, but instead for the Heart of Gold.
Yeah, looking at Shyvana finishing off that red buff. Lee Sin, looks not too much going on. All the lanes seem to be settling in, trying to get some farm. Reginald pushing this, shoving this lane a little bit. He is level 6, so we could see a potential TF teleport pretty soon.
This game just kind of snuck up on me there, getting to level 7 so quickly. There hasn't been that much action. There's been a lot of posturing around in the jungle. It seems like Odd One has just kept running into high, and they just disengage from each other. There's been no aggressive plays really by anyone. All over the place, it's pretty much just farming. In these kind of situations, you'll usually see when teams hit 6, they're going to try tower dives. Team Solo Mid, with the Shen and the Twisted Fate, will be looking bottom lane most likely for a big gank at some point, and it's just a matter of waiting for the right moment, waiting for Orbit to get aggressive in the bottom so they can turn it around. And
speaking of snuck up on you, TSM actually snuck a bit of a lead. Not too much, but about 300 gold.
Yeah, it is a small advantage, although I wouldn't really call it a lead. It's just a distribution of gold that's a little off. That could be from the fact that Soraka got Heart of Gold early and Reginald got Heart of Gold early, whereas Sona waited on the Heart of Gold and Ryze doesn't have any GP10 items. So that kind of gold lead, don't really want to read too much into it, especially due to the fact that GP10 items initially set you back. So by overall strength, I still might even give it to Orbit. And here comes the gank. Will TF try to combo, or they're trying to get Yuzuki? Not going to happen.
Odd One getting, but there's a great taunt by Dyrus. He will take out first blood. Odd One picking it up high, coming in, trying to turn it around. He does land the resonating strike, but Odd One and Dyrus, that was a great dive by Odd One and a fantastic exhaust.
Yeah, I'm bad. I should have realized that was going to be a kill. The Dyrus taunt came up just at the right time, and they were able to combo him in at the tower. Good play.
That's fantastic play by TSM, building a bit of a actual measurable lead, 12,200 gold to 11,000 gold for Orbit. And bottom lane, speaking of leads, Reginald And mid lane, wow, a lot of action coming down. Dyrus actually ulting Reginald. Nubby Pooh Bear is super low. Could something happen? That's a great teleport from Reginald, excuse me, and he's going to pick Nubby Pooh Bear up, so a quick 2-0 lead for TSM.
That was a really interesting play there. He knew he had the Twisted Fate all on him, so he was probably dead. So he stuck around. There's a big fight going down bottom here, actually. Chaos cleansing away from 9. Soraka going in. That Star Colonic special stacking up damage over time, and they're going back in with the missiles, forcing the flash.
Wow. Just out of reach. Elimination with a pick, and wow, Chaos is going to snipe him, but Nian will return the favor, and a special Battle Soraka gonna take him out with the Star Call.
That's why you get Star Car early on Soraka. He got about 5 to 10 of them off in that fight, and it honestly made all of the difference. In the meantime, Lee Sin fell as well. Was he in bottom lane, or does that happen somewhere else? Might need it. No, can't check it out in the replay.
No, unfortunately, we can't see the replays. Reginald about half health, pushing down, looking at the score line. 11 minutes in, TSM building up that lead. 5 kills to 1, 16,000 gold to 12,400 gold, and they are certainly trying to take control early and taking first dragon.
So they were able to use the Twisted Fate ultimate to generate a kill. Outside of that, it was just a strong gank from the Odd One to get the kill top lane, and then just superior play in the bottom lane. So really just combined strength. Every lane individually is winning itself for the most part, and that's just solid, strong play by TSM, bouncing back really aggressively from that first game loss. Huge gold advantage there, Jaws, 4,500.
And especially on Chaos, who has that Phage already, he's going to be building into that Trinity Force. He's going top to face off against Yuzuki. I love the play with the Soraka, being able to take them, drop the magic resist, and Chaos taking full advantage of it. I think he's going to be the person to watch in this game too.
And they've done another lane swap here. TSM actually initiating this one. They could be experimenting a little bit, or they think Dyrus is strong enough to deal with 9 at this point. They're just getting all their farm in the tower. He just blew that ult off trying to farm. Did not realize Dyrus was going to be coming out of that brush. And another lane swap by TSM here. A little curious as High comes in for gank top.
Uh-oh, X Special getting caught out of position. He does have the Resonating Strike. Great heal from X Special, and it looks like Reginald may be coming in to join the party. There he is, and they are going to be able to drop high. Reginald is on a killing spree already, but Yuzuki will be able to take out X Special, and Chaos is going to pick up another kill. And TSM doing so well in this game too.
Orbit's not doing the best job of paying attention to TF's cooldowns and positioning, because that was a very clear signal by TSM when they turned to fight that they knew they had help. Normally when a jungle gank comes in, especially when Orbit had the level advantage, and Team Solomon reacts like that, that should just be a red flag saying, hey, something's up. They're going to turn something on us, and they continued to go in, and it just got completely turned around on them by Reginald's TF gank.
And it looks like Nian's going to take down that bottom turret, so stopping the bleeding a little bit, but Chaos is going to return the favor in this top lane. No, it looks like he's just going to be backing off, but TSM trying to build that lead. We keep talking about that, where TSM gets a lead, and they build off of it, they snowball off of it. Reginald's 3-0 with 3 gold per 10 items, and he has Sorcerer Shoes, and he is already showing how much utility he can bring to the fight, even without that big damage item.
Man, when you start with GP 10 items and still get kills, your gold just explodes, and he's going to be so far ahead. He's going to get a Rabadon's Death Cap, if that's his item of choice, really soon here. This is classic Soul Mid. They get that early advantage, and they just crush it home, and that's what they've been doing thus far. I want to see how they continue to do this, or since Orbit did so well in the first game, if they have something to counteract the snowball, because right now it does not look good.
It looks like TSM's going to be able to continue to push this lead. Looking at KX as well, he's at 114 minion kills to Nian's 93. So really starting to pull ahead in that farm. Dyrus on the bottom lane has Yuzuki down to almost 50% health, just trading with him. So all lanes in TSM starting to really pull ahead.
TSM's really just creating a lot of chaos and confusion with their constant lane swaps. Orbit initiated it, but they did not play off it well. And in honesty, in a chaotic game where you do not know where lanes are going to show up, having TF and Shen just gives you a huge, huge edge, and Orbit is not able to track cooldowns and positioning well enough to deal with this much global.
Looks like Chaos going, speaking of Chaos going bottom lane. He does have that Phage and that Zeal, as well as the Amplifying Tome, so we are definitely going to see a Trinity Force soon from him. Looking at Dyrus, he did finish his Wit's End. Nubby Pooh Bear potentially going bottom lane. It looks like he's just going to be backing out, and Nian getting caught out. So much damage out from Chaos. Wow, if he had one more missile, he would have taken him out, but it looks like Yuzuki, High, and Nubby Pooh Bear are going to try and take him out. Not so much. Reginald, will he get the gold card? No, he won't. Fantastic pull from Yuzuki to get out of there.
Orbit's actually the ones who are trying to roam around a little bit here to get back in this game. that roam bottom would have worked if they wouldn't have lost all of that super early health. If 9 would have lost all that health to Chaos. And now TSM just sieging down a tower. This is actually an advantage for Orbit, because if the global team is all in one place, technically they should be weaker. So if Orbit can't turn something here, if they do get a fight, it's going to be trouble.
Ezreal using that ultimate to push TSM off of that tower, and Odd1 going mid. It looks like he's going to be trying to put some pressure on and allow TSM to have this 4v4 exchange. I really like TSM's chances in this next fight.
This is actually a smart play because the Odd1 spent so much time early roaming around. He did fall a little bit behind, but now that Team Solo Mid overall is ahead, they're allowing him to catch up as well. And there's the flash over the wall by Navi Pooper. This is the fight.
Yeah, missed ultimate by Lemon Nation, but a great ult from Yuzuki. He's in the middle of this fight. Dyer's able to get his ultimate down, but he gets exhausted. And will TSM be able to pick up a kill? No, they won't. A lot of abilities being burned, but no deaths.
Yeah, that was a 5v4 from Orbit versus TSM with no globals being used. Not a good sign for Orbit that they weren't able to turn anything there. Just continuing to siege this bottom lane as Odd1 pushes up middle. There's not much Orbit can do with this situation. They're sending 9 for him. He's only going to be able to get him off the tower. He's just going to go right from the jungle and then right to top lane. The continued siege by TSM. They've been down here for 2 or 3 minutes, not really willing to budge, and Orbit can't leave the tower, so big advantage in power play by TSM here.
And while TSM is doing that, Odd1, oh, there's the Ezreal to try and stop him, and he's just split pushing all day long. He doesn't care. He's just going to keep push until someone stops him. It looks like Nien's going to come up and try to stop him, but he's only half health. Will he be able to do something about it?
He's going to want to probably turn around a bit on this, but he's just going to play it fairly safe. This siege is good for TSM. They're going to end up getting the tower, and they're happy with this. Unless Orbit has a play, Team Solom is just going to keep on pushing, and there goes the TF all into a fight.
Great ultimate from Reginald, able to get the stun down, and Hai is in serious trouble, but he's able to safeguard out. Dyrus, too deep in, gets knocked out by Nubby Pooh Bear. Great play by Orbit.
They need to find a better person to send to stop the Odd1 than their AD carry, because the 4v4, when they're trading a Shyvana for an Ezreal, is just not working out for them. And this was a super long, extended siege by TSM. They realized that Orbit had made a misplay in their team positioning, and they just crushingly punished it.
Looking at TSM's lead, which they continue to extend, they are actually almost at 10,000 gold lead, and it is not even 20 minutes in. 4 towers to 1, 28,500 gold to 19,600 gold, 8 kills to 2, and Dragon number 2. And
looking at some of these bigger items they're completing as well, Dyrus already has that Wit's End. Corki's going to be getting his Trinity Force pretty damn soon here. The death cap will be seconds away on Reginald with that triple econ, and it's just a matter of huge advantage. This is the TSM we're used to seeing in tournaments, and man, they're most likely going to force a game 3 here.
We said at the beginning of this game too, we were excited to see what TSM is going to do to come back.
Yeah, they woke up.
And they certainly did. Having almost a 10,000 gold lead at not even 20 minutes in, I have no idea what Orbit's going to be able to do to get back into this one.
Yeah, so Ryze went for the Banshee's Veil build once again to try to match up against Reginald, but in this case, Corki's so much more fed this game, and they have so many more divers to go in on him. Shyvana and Shen can both just jump right on top of them. Good Ezreal ults. That wasn't a steal, that was just a pass-off from across the map. The Banshee's Veil is not going to work out as well for Navi Pooher because he is a squishy man. There's enough attack damage on TSM to get through to him, and he's not going to be able to just be that arcane cannon like he was last game.
Something great from TSM as well as their ability to really extend this lead. We see them pick up another tower. They are now 5-2. Yen was able to pick up that top tower, but that is going to do little to bring them back from the brink of this unbelievable lead by TSM.
This is just a quick push strat in a lot of ways. They've been denying Orbit a lot of gold. When they did that extended siege down bottom, Orbit wasn't getting any gold, and TSM already had the GP 10 items and the advantage, so they're just starving Orbit of pretty much all of their money and all of their items. You look around, they have a Will of the Ancients on Vladimir, the Banshee's Veil on Ryze, really nothing else. They haven't completed any items, they have no auras, they're just not looking well. You look over at TSM, they have Death Caps, Trinity Forces, and double Aegis, so they are set and ready to go.
Not only that, Odd1 has his Oracles, and Hai does not. So Odd1's been ward clearing all day long to get that extra vision and that extra map control for TSM so they can continue to extend that lead. In terms of Hai, he actually built the double Dorans. How do you feel about his jungle play? Because this really doesn't feel like the Orbit from game 1.
it's not even close to the Orbit from game one. They got mixed up with these lane swaps. They tried the 2v1, and then they were stuck with Vladimir and Sona for a little while. It seems like TSM is forcing Orbit into quick decisions, and they're just not quite making the right ones because they have no time to react, and they haven't maybe experienced this playstyle before. TSM coming out really hard, and Reginald is hitting like a truck. Just the random wildcards that fly through are chunking. So here they are with another siege. They have 4 members sieging down. Dyrus is going to be pushing up the top lane. They're going to continue to take outer towers here, and I don't know what Orbit's going to do about it.
TSM already proving that they are able to fight these 4v5s, and this is a strategy that we have seen from so many different teams, especially CLG NA used it really well at MLG Anaheim, that Shen split push. If Orbit decides to engage, Shen's just going to be able to ultimate in. I really am excited to see what they're going to go into this game 3, because TSM has adjusted beautifully in this game 2 of this series.
As far as this siege goes, this is such a painful situation to be in as Orbit. You want to stop Shen from split pushing, but then you know if you go, they're going to force a 5v4 on top of your tower, and they're strong enough that the odd one would be willing to dive right in. This is one thing I love about TSM. Other teams will spend a really long time poking around, but TSM is not afraid of forcing the issue. Either Reginald or the odd one don't care if they die immediately at the start of the fight if they know they're going to win it, and they are most likely going to be diving a tower fairly soon here, or just going for a Baron and then diving a tower.
Yeah, Orbit actually put a bit of a ward there as a bait. The odd one just walked up and got rid of it. He just, no cares were given. Oh, Chaos having to Valkyrie and cleanse out of that. A little bit of aggression from Orbit, but they weren't able to convert it.
And here comes TSM back in for the fight.
Yeah, and Reginald getting the stun down on Nubby Poober. Nubby Poober is just going to explode, and we see Odd One diving into the middle of the Lemon Nation. Great ultimate to get them out of the fight, but Chaos going in anyway. That is a 2-for-0 already, and Dyrus is on the hunt for a third. Nien going extremely low. He's going to flash cleanse out, but try to turn it around with high. And it looks like TSM's just going to back out, but a great play from them.
That was overall just a bit of desperation by Orbit. They knew they'd been losing this game a whole lot. They could not handle a split push, so they tried to force a 5v4 at some point on top of their tower, but they continued to chase after TSM successfully disengaged the first attempt and just got completely turned around on by TSM's mobility. This is a clinic by TSM at this point.
It certainly is. 22 minutes in, 38,900 gold for TSM, 25,200 gold for Orbit, so TSM just running away with this game. 10 kills to 2, 7 towers to 2. What are we going to see next?
Man, it's really just a matter at this point. They have that top inhibitor down, or rather bottom inhibitor, but top in relationship to Baron. They're probably all going to run to Baron. They're going to ward up the approaches a little bit, and they're either going to take Baron or force a fight clean off of it, because Orbit has to deal with the super minions coming out of that lane, and just to begin with, will have less people at the Baron fight or expose their base towers. So this is TSM's power play here. They know they have the huge advantage, warding up the approach, and now they're going to just aggro onto Baron and force an engagement or just get the free Baron.
It looks like Orbit knows exactly what they're doing. They are all postured up, ready to go. It looks like they haven't seen the ward near the Wraith Brush, but they have warded down the inside the Baron pit. Reginald trying to push out this mid lane a little bit. He did get caught a couple times in that game 1, so you know, there's always that danger of being a little bit out of position. Oh, he's definitely picked it up in this game, too. He is 4-0-3. He's got that Death Cup. He actually has the Sheen now, so we could see a Lich Bane if this game is going to continue.
Yeah, and TSM might just realize that they're 14,000 gold ahead at 23 minutes, and they could just be continuing another siege. They got the bottom tower like this. Why not the middle tower? Dire split pushing again. The rest of them over here in the middle lane, and they could just end up sieging, because sieging has worked out so well for them thus far, and only 24 minutes in, there's still no gold on Orbit. None of them have big items, aside, never mind, the Infinity Edge, but they're just, comparatively, they're just not ready to fight, and they're forced into it by TSM.
The Infinity Edge pretty solid on Ezreal. However, with a Trinity Force and a Bloodthirster on Corki, it is not going to be as solid, and there go the missiles just chunking down the members of Orbit, and TSM looking so strong in this siege. Wow, Reginald, so much pain on those wildcards, especially getting the ward to give a little bit more vision, and it looks like TSM is just going to tank this turret down and force an engage out of Orbit.
Yeah, they're just tank poking this tower down. Orbit's going to either be forced into forcing a fight that they're not going to win, or they're just going to give up the game into towers and inhibitors here. They want to engage soon just because TSM's chipping away successfully enough with this tower. There's either going to be a fight right here, or they're just going to lose their second inhibitor. And either way, Orbit's in a lot of trouble.
Reginald has actually chunked High down to less than half health and forced him to back. This siege is...
Pretty good poke.
Yeah, pretty good poke on those wild cards. Yeah, and he's just sitting there spamming these wild cards, and X-Special is continuing to feed him mana, so they could really siege indefinitely if they wanted to.
Yeah, and that's what the Orbit needs to fight here, or just give up the inhibitor, because they're trapped into such a strong situation. And the big missile comes through, crushing down Orbit, and they're just going to get this tower.
High going in, but he is less than half health. Elimination and High are both Solo and Yuzuki, all 3 members of Team Orbit, half health. The poke on this. There's Reginald going in, flash mana for Nubby Poover, but one last parting shot, and it looks like TSM is going to take down this middle inhibitor, and they could really push the game.
Yeah, and Darius is getting the top tower and inhibitor as well. This was just a well-executed split push in all ways. They had a big lead. Very systematic sieging by Team Solomid. They realized they didn't even need to take a Baron in order to get these towers. And now it's just last-ditch effort by Orbit, last team fight most likely.
There's Odd One getting caught by the Sonal, but he is able to put some damage down. Yuzuki in a dangerous position. Will they be able to kill him? Yes, they will be able to take out Sona. And Chaos on a killing spree. Unbelievable 3-0 exchange for TSM. Incredible game 2. Let's see how Orbit is going to adjust in this game 3, because TSM is almost certainly going to take out this Nexus.
This was really well executed by TSM, getting through all the delays, getting through the loss in game 1, and really just taking it to Orbit as strongly as they could. Total domination that entire game. Great Twisted Fate and map presence, and good general movement in the early game just allowed them to